And we would hear a lot much more from our guest speaker today, Tom Henderson, who is the president of the Funds2Org, a nonprofit. He has been a veteran of footwear industry for 30 plus years, and this is a great cause that he has started doing this, and he has been with this organization from the beginning, 2013. So I have an immense pleasure to invite Tom Henderson to our Rotary Club meeting as the speaker today. Tom, welcome to the club meeting, and you are doing a wonderful job. Please take us through your journey and what's happening there at Funds2Orgs, and then help us understand to all our Rotarians. Tom.
Yes, thank you so much, first of all, for allowing me to be here and spend a few minutes speaking about what we do at Funds2Orgs. The company was founded in 2013 on a thought, on an idea. As I mentioned in the bio, I've been in the footwear industry over 30 years. I've done everything from buying and merchandising stores to running sales agencies and sitting on the board of and on the executive team of a major footwear charity. And our impact at the charity was we distributed pairs of new shoes in disaster relief, and we used the micro business model to create revenue to sustain the distribution of the new shoes. So in 2012, I left that charity, and our CEO, Wayne Elsey, who's the founder of Funds2Orgs, left 6 weeks prior to me. And we both kind of did some consulting things for about a year, and he called me and he said, Tom, I've got so many people still calling me from the micro business field needing shoes, so that they can sustain their lifestyles. And I've got an idea on how we can do that. It's a fundraising model, and I thought, wow, this is genius. It's not my original idea, but I've been a part of the development team of the company since we started. So I'll tell you a little bit about the fundraising side of the business. You guys certainly understand that part as you're participating in the Shoe Drive fundraiser. And then I'll focus more on the micro enterprise side of the business. That's kind of the back end benefit of what we do here at Funds2Orgs. So Funds2Orgs, we define ourselves as a social enterprise, and a social enterprise can be a company that's for profit or nonprofit that uses their commercial strategies to do more good in the world. And we are a for-profit social enterprise. Our primary motivation is not profit. Our primary motivation is making sure we're taking care of people in the micro business field, and that then drives profit, okay? So just to give you a few, I'm going to focus heavily on Haiti because we do a lot of work in Haiti, both because of need and because of proximity and access. We can actually access the markets in Haiti more easily than we can in some other areas. Some areas you can't get into at all, even though the need is great. So here's a few statistics to take you through. About 70% of the global population uses secondhand textiles and shoes as their primary resource. 70%. In Haiti, Haiti is the most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere. They have a population of roughly 10.4 million people, and of that, 6 million live below the national poverty line, which is leveled at about $2.40 a day. 2.5 million of the 10.4 live below the extreme poverty level, which is leveled at $1.23 per day. So it's pretty rough living conditions. And if you can see the screen, this is what a retail market, a shoe market, looks like in Haiti. These are actual micro entrepreneurs that are they're operating small shoe businesses. They do sell shoes for a living, and that's what allows them to put a roof over their head and food on the table, etc., and live above the poverty line, because traditional jobs just are not as accessible. There's just not as many traditional jobs. And, you know, clearly there's a need in the marketplace. About 15% of Haitians have access to a vehicle. So a good pair of sneakers is like a mode of transportation. Well, we're a very wealthy nation, and we tend to take the running community. Runners tend to run 300 to 400 miles in a pair of shoes, and regardless of the condition of the shoes, they're going to replace them. So those shoes that are still in good wearable condition can be used to benefit people in these developing nations. So, by the way, I just wanted to point out one thing on your shoe drive flyer that I found to be very, very useful. And it was the comment that said, make sure you have permission to take the shoes. I thought that was very funny. So we'll go from there. So what is a micro enterprise? A micro enterprise is a small business. It's usually a business that has 6 or fewer employees. In this case, it's usually 1 to 2 employees. Most of the micro enterprises in Haiti are headed up by women. And so, people ask me all the time, why shoes? Well, outside of cooked food on the street or produce, textiles and clothing are the number 2 and number 3. I mean, textiles and shoes are the number 2 and number 3 resources for micro businesses in these developing nations. So you collect the shoes. And again, it's gently worn, used in new shoes. That means shoes that are in good wearable condition. Why? Because we're sending them to people that are going to be reusing them and reselling them in a local community. So you're going to help create impact with the revenue that you raise in your local community or for the programs that you support. And then you're going to, in turn, help people in the global community create small businesses that give them the opportunity to prosper above and beyond the poverty level that they face on a daily basis. You also have an environmental impact because the shoes that you collect, we're keeping them out of the waste stream. And there's about 600 million pairs of shoes that go in America's landfills every year. There's all kinds of issues with outgassing, chemicals, et cetera. When these break down, chemicals can get into the water basin. There's outgassing that occurs, et cetera. And candidly, some of the rubbers can take, 40 years, 50 years to break down and decompose. So it's a long-term issue when we dispose of these things in a landfill. If we can give them a new life, that's much better. There we go. So again, I think I've touched on this, but what is a micro enterprise? Okay, it's a small business. They have minimal employees. They have minimal cash. In fact, when people work with us, we fund the startup of their business, not with cash, but with inventory. So we would be willing to train people and provide them with 100 to 200 pairs of shoes as a startup. Because if we didn't do that, they don't have the revenue to start a business. They're not cash rich. They take these shoes to their market, they clean them, they do very minor repairs, and then they sell them for a profit. When they replenish the inventory, they do pay a small fee, just like any entrepreneur, and a portion of that fee comes back to us, which is what allows us to pay for fundraising and allows us to pay for shipping the shoes across the globe. So, in developing countries, micro businesses allow people living in some of the most impoverished areas to lift themselves out of that poverty and live above and beyond the poverty levels that they face on a daily basis. And again, they come from, selling produce from local farms, from selling cooked goods on the sidewalk, but also repurposed clothing and shoes. And, people ask me all the time, well, why don't you do clothing in addition to shoes? Because it just makes sense. And the answer is it's 2 totally separate businesses and 2 totally separate models. So we know shoes. I've been in the footwear industry 30 years. Our CEO, Wayne Elsey's been in the footwear industry for over 30 years. and we know shoes. So it just seems to be what we do, what we know, and you know, we stick to the things that we think we're doing well. So how do we at Funds2Orgs define a microbusiness? Well, it's families in developing countries. They have little to no income. We provide them a startup inventory of shoes that they can then sell. And it's a hands up model, not a hands out model. We're giving people an opportunity to create a better life for themselves. I think the last slide in the presentation will say, you know, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with the microbusiness model. We've got over 4,000 individuals globally that depend on us for footwear. And the only thing stopping that from growing is more shoes, because we don't want to, you know, take shoes away to start open new countries or whatever if we can't fulfill the needs in a current country. So, you know, by you participating in the Shoe Drive fundraiser, you're creating that opportunity for these local individuals, as well as, again, raising funds for the programs that you support. So how does it work? I mean, what's the basic operation? Okay, U.S. organizations, nonprofits, they collect shoes. Funds2Orgs picks those shoes up. We send them to hub operators in developing nations. We don't necessarily have our own operation in all of the 26 countries that we work with, but we do work with vetted partners. People say, how do you know they're not price gouging? Well, because we monitor closely exactly what happens. The other thing that sets Funds2Orgs apart from other distributors of secondhand footwear is we don't sort and grade shoes, okay? We don't sort and grade shoes and take out the best 20%. We don't take out the new Nike shoe and sell it on eBay. If we receive a pair of shoes, it goes to the microbusiness operator, thereby giving them the best product, and candidly at lower prices than they can get from other distributors. So the hub operators do pay us a small fee. Then they provide the shoes to the microbusiness operator. The microbusiness operator, again, receives a free inventory to start, a startup inventory at no cost. But then they pay a small fee to the hub operator, and they sell the shoes with a markup. That's what makes them profitable, and that's what gives them the ability to sustain the business, just like any other footwear business. It's just on a much different scale. So the micro entrepreneurs or micro business operators can be, you know, could be interchangeable words, but they do very, very minor repairs. I mean, they're not footwear cobblers. You know, when I say a minor repair, they may be able to glue a piece back down, or, you know, they may be able to polish something to make it look good and presentable. But then they're going to sell those shoes for a profit margin that they can retain to put a roof over their head and food on the table. So, you know, the microbusiness model is not new. I mean, most of the businesses in the U.S. are micro businesses. If you think about it, they're small family-owned businesses. They have limited capital, limited revenue. They're not, you know, not multi-billion-dollar industries. They're small mom-and-pop operations. Well, that's what this is, but on a different scale. This is a small mom-and-pop operation. Typically, if you see the smiling face of the young lady on the screen, most of these businesses are operated by women. There are men that operate the businesses as well. Most of them then will expand the business to their family, okay? And then from their family, they can refer others. But it gives people a way to lift themselves out of the extreme poverty without having to continually be given a handout. They're given a hand up, and they're able to pull themselves out of the poverty that they live in. So these are a couple of examples. Sylvia's a great example. You know, Sylvia, when she came to us, she was making about $2 a day. And in 7 years, she now makes over $60 a day. Well, you know, the average income in Haiti is $480 a year. So you can see she's living well above even the average income. She's improved her lot in life dramatically. Thomas, he's a good guy. He basically he's chosen soccer cleats as his path. He wants to sell soccer cleats because everybody in the developing world, you know, plays football, and you know, so he's chosen, this is what he does, is he'll take some of the inventory that he gets and he'll trade inventory with people that have soccer cleats so that he can sell soccer cleats. That's his focus. And you know, these guys are doing a great job. They're very industrious, very creative in the things that they do. And you know, if you ask people in these areas what they want opportunity. They don't always want a handout. They want a way to improve the position that they're in. So I think I touched on this. This is the slide that I think tells the story the best. You know, when you're trying to help people improve their lot, you can give them a fish. If you do, they eat for a day, you've solved a short-term problem. But if you teach them to fish, then they can eat for a lifetime, and you've given them an opportunity to survive and thrive. So that's what we do at Funds2Orgs from a micro business standpoint. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, or really just open up the floor. You know, before we do, let me say thank you all for giving me a few minutes to speak.
Tom, thank you very much, Tom. It's very great work that, you know, you are doing with the Funds2Orgs. You know, it's helping so many people out there. And you know, I heard that you are doing this in 26 countries. That's phenomenal. So we are very excited to be doing this. I know Anand Garu, Priya Garu, somehow, you know, they came across this and then they talked to you and teed this off for us. And, you know, we are picking it up and trying to do the best we can to help, you know, the people in the countries, in the developing countries, or, you know, underdeveloping countries. So, so thank you. And, you know, if you want to share a couple of more pointers on, you know, how many, I know you have been there since 2013, about 6 to 7 years. How many pairs, you know, you would have collected, or, you know, how many people would have helped, any numbers, if you can throw some light on that approximately, you know?
I can tell you that we've worked with over 10,000 nonprofit groups, whether it be the PTA at the school, or whether it be with the animal rescue, or some of my favorites. We helped a family of a young man in Alabama raise over $35,000 to purchase a wheelchair accessible van. To me, that's real impact. That changed this young man's life. It made a difference. So those to me, that's what gets my juices flowing and gets my blood pumping. You know, I've had people that families that are adopting children, and if no one's ever looked at it, adoptions are insanely expensive. If you adopt domestically, you're at a minimum baseline of about $35,000. Internationally, that can go upwards over $50,000. So we've helped numerous families with that. And I think, you know, for families that are willing to give a child a lifetime of love, if we can be a small part of helping them realize that dream, well, that's fantastic. You know, I mean, there's story after story of the impact, and it's not us. You know, you're doing the fundraiser, you're engaging your audience to collect the shoes. We're just giving you the portal and the pathway to get that done. So it's really, you know, I appreciate the kind words, but it's really you guys that are making the difference, because you're the people that are calling your friends and saying, hey, we're raising $4,000 so that we can. And in order to do this, we're asking you to clean out your closets of any pairs of gently worn, used, and new shoes that you don't wear anymore. We have a goal of collecting 10,000 pairs. My personal goal is to collect 50 pairs. Can I count you in? You know, you're the guys that are doing that on the daily. So we appreciate it. We love what we do. We're very passionate about what we do. But we know that the real impact is being made by you and your supporters.
Thank you very much, Ram. Really appreciate that insights. And then, yes, it's just the beginning, and we continue to do this, and we will see where we end up on August 15th, and even beyond that, we could take this on and then do some things there. And we are getting great support from our district 5170, the international chair, Geeta Garu is also helping us, and then our district governor Greg, and then past Ramesh ji, and Kamal ji, from other things, and Tina. So many people, not directly connected to our club, but our district officials. Everybody is trying to help us with this fundraiser. So I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone. So Padma Garu, you want to add any?
One question to Tom?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Please, anybody has any questions, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, Tom, this is Anand. I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
People are very happy about this project, especially as we are doing this through the Rotary Club of Silicon Andhra. A couple of governors, Rotary governors from India called me and are asking whether, do you have any plans for the collection in India and do something?
At this point, we don't, and it all boils down to the cost of logistics. At this point, we're still not even able to support Alaska and Hawaii. We do everything we do in the lower 48, and it all boils down to the cost of logistics. Because if we pay, I think we pay 95 cents a pound or thereabout to ship the shoes from Miami to Haiti. But if we had to tack on another $1 to get the shoes here, or to get the shoes from a further distance, then it puts those out of the range and reach of the micro entrepreneur on the ground in those areas. So we've tried to open up Canada, but there are, tariff and duty issues with bringing shoes across the border. So we're always open. I've done fundraisers in Puerto Rico. I did a fundraiser in South Africa, but I was able to ship the shoes from South Africa straight to Kenya, and the cost worked. But it's
in India, if you could think about doing it, you don't need to ship out. In India itself, you could collect, and then in India itself, you could create the micro enterprises.
Well, I'll take that under advisement, and I'll look into it with our CEO and see if we can make something happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any other questions? Please.
I have a question, Raju Garu.
Go ahead.
So we do thank you first of all for this wonderful presentation. Thank you, Tom, for your time. So we also got a lot of queries, especially while collecting shoes, saying that does Funds2Org only limit itself with shoes? How about clothes? Are you also planning to get into clothing, or any idea in near future? That's the question we are getting from all our friends and families, whomever we are going and collecting shoes.
And we get that question daily. And the answer is, in the short-term future, no, that's not our focus. Our focus is 100% footwear. The clothing industry, the used textile industry is a very candidly difficult market because they're graded in so many ways. Of the products that are collected, you have to physically sort and grade all of it, and then they're put into 1,000-pound bales, and then much of it is used to make industrial rags, shop rags, and things like that. So it's just a different business model, and right now it's not our pursuit.
Thank you. And we also have one question from Manoj Joshi ji. How is COVID-19 pandemic impacting the operation of Funds2Org? That's his question.
Well, it certainly has created its own challenges, as it has for pretty much every industry and every organization. But fortunately, we have been blessed to prosper, I guess you'd say, through this without much of a hiccup. And that doesn't mean it's been easy. There certainly have been tons of challenges, but through some creative ideas, we're encouraging people to respect social distancing while you collect. So one of the ways that we're doing that is we're asking, create these virtual or drive up, drop off donation windows where people can have shoes in the trunk of the car, drive up to a location, pop the trunk, the donations retrieved from the trunk, you close the trunk, thank them, and they never have to get out of the car or even roll down the window. So it's perfectly social distanced. There's other ways that we're seeing people collect shoes as well, which is, using Facebook neighborhood pages and Facebook and the Nextdoor app, and encouraging people through those with a message of they can actually, clean out their family's closets, place the shoes in a plastic bag on the curb by, call it 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and then they might have a team drive around the neighborhood with a pickup truck and collect those bags from the curb. And again, that totally respects social distancing, et cetera. One of the bigger impacts is there were other countries that were like Honduras. Honduras was a big market for us. We had a lot of distribution into Honduras. Since the global pandemic, we haven't been able to ship a pair of shoes to Honduras. The ports, they just won't accept them. And we haven't had any impact from it. So other than having to shift the business model a little bit on where shoes are going, but we're fortunate to have thrived through this.
Wonderful, Tom. Thank you. And Kamal Delaji, please go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Tom, do you have a list of the country you are involved with, and especially, do you have one in Algeria, North Africa?
I don't think we're in Algeria currently. I don't think we're in Algeria currently. I'll have to look at the list. I do have a list, and I can share that or have that shared back, to the primary contact for the shoe drive fundraiser.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.